Update 6.66 is here! And with it comes some much needed patches, 2 master levels, and the hotly anticipated official Horde mode. First, I would like to preface with the fact I did not dig deep into the patches. Many other channels have spent time digging into them, pointing out how well they're implemented and bugs that still need fixes, as well as known issues specifically from the patch. My schedule does not allow me to really spend enough time testing these things, so I will leave this analysis to better minds and spend most of my time in Horde mode. That being said, I do read the patch notes and I will go over the big pieces I find important. The master levels I will also be leaving for their own video. First, we will have a brief look into the patch notes. The first important fix was the loot drop collision issue. This was a bug that loot from killed enemies would collide with projectiles like the Destroyer Blade, wasting ammo. I never had a huge problem in my own playtime, but I'm glad it's fixed as it could mean life or death for a Horde mode life loss or an Ultra Nightmare run. The ambient automap music being looped after opening it until the program is closed is also fixed. This happened to me only once and was very, very annoying. One of the biggest changes was the buff to full auto. It winds up and down noticeably faster, and the fully mastered version negates all movement debuffs, allowing you to move at normal speed. There is still zoom in, but I always like this as it helps focus in on target. Part of me is kind of bummed that they buffed it so much, as I felt that the difficulty required to successfully use it allowed a good skill cap to how well it could be implemented. However, I do understand why id Software would like to be marginally more user-friendly, so it gets more use across the player base. Also, because of the fact the Master's Shotgun being the initial gun given in Horde mode, I could see why making it so much more user-friendly could benefit players having fun and ease of access enough to last them to the first random gum drop. But more on that later. Before I go on, I just want to issue a spoiler warning on the off chance you intend to play this mode and somehow haven't yet. I won't be going into every encounter, but there will be gameplay from throughout, so if you want the fights to remain a surprise, feel free to come back once you've played it yourself. Speaking of gameplay, everything I recorded for this video was on the Nightmare difficulty, as that is the difficulty I normally play on anyway, and what I am personally most comfortable with. Given this, anything I will talk about will be in relation to the fights available on this difficulty, and I have no idea what other difficulties used for encounters instead, nor if they change things like time limits and stuff like that. Alright, now for the real meat of the update, the much anticipated Horde mode. Full disclaimer, I've never really had experience with Horde modes or games, so my preconceived notions led me to have an immediate disappointment when I read and saw how short and lineated it was. My understanding, based solely on assumptions, was that it was endless rounds of increasingly difficult enemies with the ability to purchase gear or weapons every so many milestones. So seeing it be 3 missions, all with the same structure, same enemy encounters, and starting with everything fully upgraded except having all of the weapons, left me feeling sadly underwhelmed. My initial playthrough was fun, but clouded by this sentiment. However, before you sprint to the comments about how wrong I am, don't bother. I read up on Horde modes, saw what some others in the community were saying, and realized that this was more of personal misunderstanding than poor development. The encounters are great, the challenge from receiving random guns every milestone leaving you to improvise outside of your developed habits, and fighting for that oh so shiny red medal on the leaderboard are generally some of the most fun I've ever had in recent games. And honestly, I think that's what they were going for. Fun encounters, opening up on platforming challenges, and pushing people out of their comfort zone, all towards having the most bragging rights on the leaderboard, which is accomplished and then some. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Horde mode is set up as 3 missions, each mission having 3 main wave-based arenas and minigame missions in between. The main objective is to earn as many points as possible arcade style by killing demons and various challenges like bounties and no power weapons, but more on those later. One mini-game mission is the Blitz Round, which is multiple spawning demons of the same type that you need to kill a specified amount of before the time runs out in order to get a 3-up and access to a bonus round, and therefore more opportunity to earn points. The other is a Traversal Round with a run on various platforming obstacles with hazards in the way and coins to collect. The platforming isn't too hard, but trying to get through fast and grab coins in order to get them all while the time limit is on gold is where the challenge of these rounds are. The Blitz Rounds are really easy, usually having quad damage and cue balls to help you kill the demons fast, but on the same token it is really easy to get boxed in during these rounds as well, and you can lose lives in this mode if you aren't careful, and you need those to continue and for more points at the end of the game. These rounds also serve a great purpose in breaking up combat arenas, and providing a breather from some incredibly stressful combat situations, and I love how these rounds are still incredibly integral for accruing more points. Firstly, they tie it directly to your survival. For instance, in the Blitz Rounds, you have a set number of demons to kill, and obviously the quicker you kill them, the more points you get. But you have to make sure you kill all the necessary demons if you want the 3-up, because if you don't, you only get a 1-up. Not only does this impact your survival, and that you have less chances to keep going, but also the more lives you have and the less you lose, the more points you get in the end. The Traversal Rounds work in a similar manner as well, except with collecting coins while platforming. I mentioned bounties earlier, and they essentially amount to timed challenges of killing specific demons on the battlefield marked on screen. You have a timer that is shown around their icon, which I sometimes have a hard time recognizing in the heat of combat. Each time the timer reaches 0, the multiplier tier is lowered. Obviously, this encourages you to hunt them down as quickly as possible to get the best multiplier, which helps break up having the regular Doom Dance combat. And the multiplier itself is an in-game power-up that you must pick up in order to use, allowing you to plan out the best time to maximize points. A nice quality of life decision they made is the power-up can't be picked up immediately, you have to wait a few seconds so you don't accidentally pick it up when it spawns or get bopped into it by a Hell Knight right away. Another good way they tie points to combat performance is the deduction of points when using power weapons. You are given the BFG allowing you a panic button, but you lose points if you use it. Strangely, they don't give you the Unmaker, and the Sentinel Hammer does not lead to point deduction, which leads to my first legitimate criticism. I definitely think they should have given you the Unmaker and tied point deduction to the amount of ammo used. This would allow you to either lose a large chunk every BFG use, but at least allows for the chance of gold if you use it as a panic button once, or use the Unmaker a few shots here and there for certain situations, and being rewarded for a little strategy with power weapons by not losing as many points and giving the player a better chance for gold without removing the use of power weapons to move up the leaderboards. Obviously, to obtain the red medal, you should be expected to not use power weapons at all, as that is top tier and should be for the best of the best. Power weapons are fun to use, and you should absolutely be hindered for using them in this context, but I think it deserved a little more leeway. My second criticism relates to the Sentinel Hammer. I like that they changed it to 4 weak point breaks or glory kills. It makes it feel more strategic to use because it's a little more of a challenge to get back. I still think it should be only one source or the other, but this is a good change. My criticism extends more towards the odd decision to have it not affect your score. To my knowledge, the Sentinel Weapons, both Crucible and Hammer, are considered power weapons by not only the community, but the game itself. Yet you can use the Hammer as much as you want, or can, and it will not affect your score negatively in any way. I do understand the logic that you are more likely to use the Hammer and it's more integral to the combat overall than, say, the BFG, but the fact that there is no penalty at all is shocking. Again, they could have constrained usage to encourage strategic thinking. Maybe they could have had a penalty for using more than one kind of power weapon on top of the BFG usage deduction, or they could have allowed one free usage per arena round and penalized subsequent usage with the standard amount of points. It's obvious this mode is a fight for the most points possible, as well as trying to push people out of their comfort zone to change up strategies based on a lack of arsenal and random weapon each round. Given this context, I think it's a missed opportunity. Maybe they'll change this in a later patch in some way, but as of this video, this is how it plays. To be absolutely clear, these criticisms don't detract from the mode in any significant way. These are more personal gripes I think could have made this mode that much more fun. But this mode is fun. The encounters are fun, the platform challenges are fun, the mindless Blitz Rounds are fun, and the fight that climb up the leaderboard is fun. And these fights are no joke. The very first fight in the first arena sees you fighting a Doom Hunter with nothing but your tools and a mastered combat shotgun. I was not ready to fight this guy in so close quarters with no arsenal, however I have found a consistent way of taking him down by using a grenade to stagger him, blood punching his sled twice, breaking it with a few concentrated full auto shots, and then freezing him once he detaches to finish him with the full auto. That first time being in this situation is a shock, but serves more to foreshadow the difficulty coming up than being consistently difficult. And if you're not a player who actively switches mods, you'll have to learn until you get at least a few more weapons. You obviously don't have to mod switch if you don't want to. It's not something I usually do in the Doom Dance, but I have found it incredibly useful in the first mission at least. In the second arena round of the first mission, there's a possessed Mancubus, and if you don't have a rocket launcher, he can ruin your day very quickly. Hell, if you don't get a microwave beam for many rounds, have fun dealing with the spirit until you kill every enemy. If you're lucky, he'll possess an imp or something. Also, in the last arena round of Reclaimed Earth, there's a possessed Doom Hunter, and not only is he one of the hardest demons to face, it's so easy to forget that he's possessed because his shield blends with the spirit aura. Many times I've forgotten he is possessed and had lives viciously slapped out of me when I try to stagger and blood punch his sled. There's also really amazing placement of Archviles as well. Even when you know their spawn locations, when you get lost in these difficult fights and start seeing the telltale red ghost of an Archvile summon, all of a sudden you're rushing around going, oh my god, where is he? It is probably one of my favorite uses of Archviles, even over the use of double Archviles. This new mode really loves Bloodmakers. Nearly every arena round has Bloodmakers, sometimes multiple in one spawn, and they can cause a lost life if you do not take care of them quickly. I was disheartened when they extended the vulnerability window before they attack, But honestly, in these fights with so many oppressive demons around, it can be really hard to take them out even with a longer window of opportunity. But throughout these rounds, I'm finding myself missing the Tag 2 enemies. The Screechers are using a Blitz Round on Reclaimed Earth, and the Stone Imps are using a Blitz Round on the Holt, but the only consistent Tag 2 enemy is the Cursed Prowler. Don't get me wrong, the Blitz Rounds taking out the Prowlers while avoiding Screechers can turn on a dime, but imagine the double Baron fight in the Holt with the Screechers added in, or in the close quarters second arena of Reclaimed Earth. Again, this could have been tied to points. You gain more points per Screecher buff demon kill, or a chunk of points for not activating one during a whole wave. And just having Stone Imps throughout various waves would have been so nice to see for a mix-up. I'm actually sort of shocked they got so little attention. It would have been cool to see what kind of combinations id could have come up with in some of these waves. Like instead of a Possessed Mancubus and Cultist base, they could have had 3 Mancubuses with Screechers. It's such a constricted map, and with the Mancubuses exploding on death, it could have been a nice challenge when trying to avoid Screecher buffed carcasses and at least one buffed Mancubus. These aren't huge issues I'm willing to die on a hill for, but they could have added that little bit more of challenge and strategy to the point system. Overall, I think the new Horde mode was a success. It is incredibly fun, both the main combat waves as well as Traversal and Blitz Rounds to break up the combat. There is a hefty challenge that comes from not only encounters and randomized weapon earning, but also from keeping effective ways to earn points in mind. At the end of it all, it's more DOOMEternal with a few twists to keep it fresh. And for a long-time Doom fan such as myself, having not only the classic Marine skin, but now the Doom 2 Marine skin as well is fucking cool. They even kept his jazzy haircut. I wish more developers spent time like this adding small thoughtful details to show their passion and hard work, but that might be a topic for another video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is the first time I've really sat down and created a proper review, so I'm sure I've missed some points. Make sure you subscribe and follow me on Twitter so you can yell at me directly and keep up to date on my schedule and things. Follow me on Twitch to catch my streams, some of which I use for these videos. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.